These are some of the most iconic elephants on the planet. People travel halfway around the world to come to Amboseli, to stand looking at Kilimanjaro with elephants moving in front of them.
And they want to take away only a photograph. People look at these animals with awe and with respect.
We're talking about the big tuskers, and there are only a handful left.
These are irreplaceable animals.
The Greater Amboseli population is the most well-known and most studied elephant population in existence. And this is due to the works of Joyce Poole and Cynthia Moss and the African Amboseli Trust for Elephants. I've studied these elephants for almost 50 years.
So this elephant is Pascal. He was born in 1980. He's 44 years old. He's the biggest elephant in the ecosystem, but he's got a long way to go. These big bulls are so important to elephants in this ecosystem. They can breed into their late 60s.
Only 39% of African bull elephants survive to the age of must.
These tuskers that we are discussing are at their prime. Between the 40 and 60 years, that's when they have the largest tusks. And that's when their contribution in genetic terms to the populations of elephants is highest. And also, they have strong genes that would pass on to the next generation.
You know, when you watch a big musked male guarding an estrus female, he's surrounded by young males, and you can watch them watching every move that big guy makes. They're learning from him. They're the ones who give the let's go rumbles, that gather the bulls together, that make the decisions.
They teach the younger bulls how to get by. In Africa now, we're losing habitat so quickly. And these old bulls know how to survive. They're wise, they're super intelligent.
It is such a tiny little perspective of that population. It is already fragile, and so we cannot have anything that topples that pyramid or that affects it. And so these particular icons and that age class needs to be protected by all means.
This is ancestral land of the Maasai people who have lived for generations side by side with wildlife. And they care so much about their elephants. Like, this is their national treasure.
Elephants mean so much to the Maasai communities because we believe that we came from them.
Elephants are keystone species. They create habitat mosaics. And of course, the big males are the ones who are doing a lot of that landscape engineering. They really play an important role, particularly in the grazing lands where, you know, the Maasai use for their cattle. If it weren't for the elephants, that area would be thick bush. It wouldn't be available for livestock.
As a Maasai society, we have been living with wild animals, especially like the elephants here. When they see a lot of animals moving or like the elephant passing, they know like this is the direction that it will be having like good pasture and enough water.
I've filmed a lot with elephants, particularly on Elephant Diaries, a BBC series where I spent a lot of time with young orphaned elephants in Nairobi Orphanage. And from working with them, I know that they have a lot of emotional intelligence. They're incredibly gentle creatures.
We know that they are self-aware. We know they are capable of empathy. We're talking about really sophisticated animals.
If you spend time with elephants and get to know how, in so many ways, they have human-like qualities. They care about their families.
He's been raised since he was tiny around tourists that come this close to him probably every day. How could you imagine just rocking up like this and just shooting it, like blowing it away, ending its life when he's in the prime of his life? It's not like you're putting it out of its misery or, trying to help it in any way. No, you're just stealing its life. And you're stealing the opportunity for everybody else to enjoy that animal. I just can't fathom who would do that.
African elephants are actually classified as endangered. They have declined by 70%. This means that when we target very specific mature elephant bulls, we are actively making a significant contribution to the decline in the population.
Really and truly, it's about having something magnificent left in the world, the very rare last remnant of something, and then destroying it. And destroying it for yourself so that the rest of the world can no longer experience and enjoy this thing. And I think the debate has to be about that.
Amboseli is the place where, across the continent of Africa, where you have the highest density of these very large tusk males. The largest tusks ever found were on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. And we still have these big boys, but these hunters are just, popping them off, and they could very easily, it's a small population, it's only 2,000 elephants with, very few of them older males with big tusks. So they could very easily finish these big breeding males.
It's important to remember that 76% of Africa's elephants are actually transboundary, meaning that they do not belong to one single nation.
So you're talking about a very small, special research group of elephants, and they inhabit, community areas, and they also go across the border into Tanzania, where they particularly like to spend some of their time in some of these concessions where potentially the hunting has taken place.
I had a whole group of bulls who would come into Amboseli when they were reproductively active, but when they were going to build up strength again, they would disappear across the border. So that has always been a bull area. If you think about this, there's this tiny national park, and yet they're using, 8,000, 12,000 square kilometers.
Here's a really good indicator of how the elephants move in and out of Amboseli. So we got Esau. He's a big bull, probably about 110 pounds a side. He was collared in Amboseli here. He came out, and then you can see he came through the photographic zone. This is the photographic zone here, into the hunting zone, even out of the hunting zone, onto the side of Kili, and now he's back here.
For the last 30 years, there's been a gentleman's agreement between Tanzania and Kenya that nobody would target those elephants.
Everybody saying there is an agreement. The question is, I have never seen this agreement. I've never seen, either from Kenya or from the government. Where is this agreement? Because if there is an agreement, we people, we can make noise.
We got information that a bull elephant been shot, which was a big shock to us because for the last 60 years, there's basically been no elephant hunting in those concessions across the border.
And then somewhere along the line, a ball slipped. We've lost 5 super tusker elephants in this year alone.
These hunts have all been conducted by a rogue group of professional hunters. Even in the Tanzanian landscape, the hunting community does not approve. They're not happy with the reputational risk that's being associated with the hunting industry, and it is bringing the hunting industry into disrepute.
There's a lot of people are saying, well, they're past their sell-by date, they're old, they've already contributed their genetic material.
This notion that hunters like to push that, we're only killing the older males who are, post-breeding is just rubbish, because it is these very old males who are doing the breeding.
The other thing that is important with these species is the value they have to science and also to the ecology of elephants.
Having hunters come in and take out the breeding males, just, it just ruins the scientific picture, which is so important for, conservation policy across the continent.
So killing these older animals can have a hugely destabilizing effect on elephant families, elephant herds, and can lead to increases in aggression between younger males and even increased human-wildlife conflict. So this is a moral tragedy, first and foremost, but it's also a biological tragedy.
In my mind, it's just absolutely insane to compromise a whole lineage of unique big tusked elephants for a few hunters who've come here and want to stick these tusks on their wall.
Endemit Wildlife Management Area has been selling itself on the back of these majestic elephants. The one thing that has gone into this international media network is actually that elephants have been shot in this area. So it's kind of almost defeated the purpose that we were trying now, putting a lot of efforts into marketing. It does affect the photographic part.
Shooting big tusked elephants might have very short-term returns for those with vested interests in hunting and who benefit from the hunting value chain, but it's fundamentally unsustainable. Once that elephant has been shot, he's no longer available to other elephants, nor is he available to photographic tourism, which is a fundamentally sustainable activity because it depends on the preservation of those elephants, which in this particular area is critical for Kenya because they do not have trophy hunting.
The reason these bulls are targeted is because they're big. And they're that big because we protected them on this side of the border. And when professional hunters are selling elephant hunts, they get paid very, very well for anything over 100 pounds a side.
Trophy hunters want the best animal, and so do photographic tourists. So you're in direct competition here with photographic tourism.
One of the big bulls, Craig, he generates thousands of dollars a day in filming, permits. People fly across the world to see him.
It is more important to have the big tuskers protected so that we can continue earning income out of that.
I think on the ethical front, we have to consider why is it that somebody through the dint of their great wealth can go and kill a magnificent animal when that will deprive thousands of other people of the opportunity of seeing it and bringing those jobs, those resources, that finance to that area.
Typically, the argument offered in favor of the economics of trophy hunting is that trophy hunting funds conservation and provides revenue and meat to local communities.
By hunting the elephant tusks, people from this area or the local community, they never benefit from anything.
The whole operation is shrouded in secrecy. Elephants are shot. By midnight, they bring in JCB diggers and bury the carcass or burn it. Never seen a jaw, never seen a picture of the tusk.
These big guys who are crossing the border into Tanzania are animals that we've known since their birth. We know their mothers, we know their families, we know how they grew up, and they're really, really used to vehicles and people. So to have suddenly a totally different conservation policy or management on the other side of the border where suddenly they're vulnerable to trophy hunters is just, it's ethically wrong.
I think it's such a betrayal of the trust that these animals build up with people.
When it comes down to the ethics of hunting habituated animals, especially when it's been established over such a long period of time that these are cross-border and coming out of a national park, it raises a lot of moral questions.
The responsibility and the burden of this resides with the person pulling the trigger.
We have some of these iconic elephant bulls that we know almost on a daily basis, that our guides are very familiar with, and you drive very close to them. It has also saddened some of the guides that they would drive to one of those old elephant bulls in the morning on a game drive, and then in the afternoon they're here, he's gone.
It was just heartbreaking hearing a Maasai man who grew up with these elephants. He told me, Tiasa, these elephants are like my kids.
I had the opportunity to be the chief warden for Amboseli National Park in the 90s for 3 years. And I have a strong passion for these elephants that I had an opportunity of protecting and knowing and living with. So when I see that they are endangered through trophy hunting at a personal level, it affects me because I know these individuals, I stayed with them, and I helped protect them.
I think it becomes really hard when you see people who've put in so much of their life and passion to protecting these elephants, and just across the border, they're being killed. It's just something I will never understand.
We need to think about what we're doing with these big tuskers. The way that we're handling them right now is we're basically doing a time splice. We're taking them out of the present and we're removing them from the future as well. There will not be more big tuskers in the same way as we're taking out their genes, and therefore we are excluding future generations of both elephants and people of ever seeing them again. So this is a moral question as well as an ethical one.